Hello Stampers! We're going to the jungle today with the Wild Cat Stampin' Up stamp set. And here's the stamp set right here. And when I first looked at the stamp set, it was a little confusing to look at just because the way the stamps are, that there are multi-steps to build your tiger. And so there are stripes and then different heads to put on them. That was a little confusing for me at first, but I'm going to show you how to build this tiger up. And I decided to make my tiger, I was making it more white, so I stamped it lightly in gray and then filled it in with the stripes. And you're going to see that happen step by step today. So we're going to get going on this project. We're going to start with our tiger. And I have the body here, and when you stamp this, it partially fills the body in. And I'm going to start with Smoky Slate, and we're going to do this second generation. So I'm going to load my stamp up, stamp it off, and then stamp it on basic white cardstock. So that makes a second generation stamping, so it's not quite as dark. It's a little lighter. So that was the body, and then we're going to go with the head next, and we're going to do black stripes on this tiger. So I'm going to get out the Memento Tuxedo Black. And this, you just load it up with black, and then you line it up. And I'm going to have to bring it down some. I hope you can still see what I'm doing. So there is the head all stamped on. You just line it up. I find it easier to try to line up the nose and the ears. And then you come up with this great image. It just makes that face just perfectly. So that was the head. And then we're going to add some stripes to the body. And when you put the stripes on, the big stripes go at the top and the smaller ones towards the bottom. And this you want to line up with the chest and the back. And there we go. There's those tiger stripes. And it's just so easy to build, and you can make them any color. Like you could do the traditional coloring with, you know, an orangish brown. So it's entirely up to you. Now you can get the whole bundle with this stamp set. There's the stamps, and then you can pick up the dies that cut it out. I chose to just fussy cut mine out, and by magic of video, I have it all cut out here. It's pretty easy to cut out, and I wanted it close, so I went ahead and cut mine out. So we're going to set that aside for now, and we're going to build the background for this card. So I have a basic white piece of paper here that is 3 by 5.5, and I'm going to start with some Bumblebee ink. And I'm going to use a blending brush and blend Bumblebee ink over the top, about the top half of the panel, and then the bottom fourth. The next step, I'm going to do direct to paper, and I'm going to bring out some Granny Apple Green ink. And I'm going to use this short end here, and I'm going to drag it downwards, and I'm going to hold my ink pad at an angle. So I'm just using that edge of the ink pad, and I'm going to swipe in where I want him to sit from. And this makes this great streaks. Get the smooch off here. So there's some streaks with Granny Apple Green. And then I'll bring in some Mossy Meadow, and I'm going to do the same thing with Mossy Meadow. Only I'm going to come down just a hair from the green and pull this down, just to add a little of that. So it's a little lighter on the top of the top there, and then it gets darker, like he's sitting up on a cliff. Okay, so now we're going to add some gray up here in our sky. And I'm going to use a blending brush for this. I'm just going to pull some color down. I want kind of a blended, streaky looking background. Just like our background is kind of out of focus. And I'm going to pull color up from the bottom the same way. And if you find it easier to pull down, just switch your cardstock around. Works just as well. Okay. So now I'm going to add some Mossy Meadow and a blending brush. And I'm going to do that same thing. I'm going to pull some color down. You can do it directionally, just so it looks like there's something going on back there. Our little jungle look here. You can do the same thing coming up. Just make sure you don't obliviate your bumblebee ink. You want it to shine through. So there's our background done. And I'm going to keep that Mossy Meadow out, and I'm going to stamp some plants. You get a few different plants in this set, and this is a long viney looking plant, and I'm going to stamp it vining down from the Mossy Meadow. And you can double up on them so you get different lengths for that. And we're just going to bring this across a bit. There we go. And then we have another leafy plant. And this just has 3 leaves, and we're going to use that also here. Just so you've got some different foliage happening. Okay. And then I want a plant up there on the top of this ledge, but I'm going to use Granny Apple Green to stamp this because I want it to kind of look like it's back further than what the tiger's going to be sitting at. I want our tiger more up front. So I'm stamping this with Granny Apple Green. There we go. And that is our scene and background, and we're going to add our tiger to it. Just going to adhere him with some multi-purpose glue. And I'm going to make sure he's sitting upright, that his paws are at the same level. Otherwise he'll look tilted. But there he is. He's all sitting up there. And he looks great. He's really in his element with all that foliage in there. Don't you think? Okay, so I'm going to start putting our card together. And I want to flip this paper over. There we go. Now we got a nice clean surface. And I'm going to bring in my cardstocks that I'm using. I have a Mossy Meadow card base here that is 5.5 by 8.5, and then it's folded in half for a quarter card. This piece, if I didn't say, this basic white piece that we used was 3 by 5.5. And then inside our card, we have a Smoky Slate piece that's 4 by 5.25. So I want to back this main panel up with a Smoky Slate panel that is 3 1/4 by 5 1/2. So I'm going to have it so it's flush on both bottom and top, and then there's like an 1/8 of an inch on each side. Add some love behind there. Okay, I'm just lining this up. There we go. And then we're going to add this to the card front. And I'm leaving like a 1/4 of an inch on this right side here. And then I cut some little strips. I have 2 Smoky Slate strips. And these are 1/2 inch by 1 1/2 inch long. I love using little paper strips just for added interest to your card. It's very economical. You always got scraps sitting around your cutter. So there's one. And I'm just lining it up with the left side of our Mossy Meadow card base. And let's see if that looks good. And then I made little strips of Mossy Meadow cardstock, and this is a 1/4 inch by 1 inch. And we're going to add those to our little Smoky Slate pieces. And I'm just going to put them in the middle of those pieces over to the left side. Keep it a simple layout for big panels like this. Put a lot of effort into creating your scene, and you really don't want a whole lot on the front of it to distract from that beautiful scene that you just made. So there's our little strips in there. That was easy, right? And then I love these brushed metallic metal adhesive back dots, and we're going to use these here that look like brush nickel. I'm going to use the large ones for this. And we're just going to put one on each of those little Smoky Slate strips there. There we go. And there's our card all finished. So there you have it. I hope you enjoyed this tutorial. Thanks for joining me today. Bye.